Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of my Russian experience. Today is the 7th of Sha'aban 1439, that's the 24th of April 2018. Uh, and as I said in the previous episode, in this episode we are going to discuss about the Russian language, how we started learning Russian language, how easy or how difficult it was, and some of the similarities and differences of Russian alphabets and the Russian and the English alphabets, and basically the introduction or the basics and the beginning of our program in Tver. But before that, I want to show you something that I got on Saturday. On Saturday, we had a marathon that commemorates on the 12th of April 1961, the first man, Yuri Gagarin, was able to orbit the Earth. So it's called the Din Kosmonavtiki, that's the Cosmonaut Day. It's like a holiday, it's a public holiday around the world, not only in Russia. So in view of that, KAI, our aviation school, organized a marathon to run 2 kilometers. Like we ran 2 kilometers, and I was able to run 2 kilometers for 7 minutes, no, 9 minutes 35 seconds. And the first person, the winner, ran for 7 minutes and some seconds. I cannot remember. Anyway, that's it for this marathon. It's my first marathon, and this is my first, let's say, first medal in sports, and I'm happy about it. That's why I wanted to share with you. Okay, uh, into the business. Russian language. When we first came, as I said, after all the settling down, the medical checkup, and here and there, we are expected to start our Russian language course. It's like a pre-university course or preparatory course. The first year is for Russian language, because when we came to Russia, we are supposed to study in Russia. Basically, almost every scholarship student, and even in some cases not scholarship students, almost every scholarship students in Russia have to study Russian language and study the program or study the course of his course in Russian language. So there are few English medium, like mostly in international studies or in medicine, and most of these mediums don't have scholarship spaces. Anyway, so we are obviously it's mandatory for us to study Russian language. So how do we start? Russian language is one of the most difficult languages in the world. Before coming to Russia, I never knew anything about Russian language. In fact, it never came to me to, oh, yeah, in Russia, what language did they speak? Russian, okay. But anyway, that's not a problem, because in any case, we came and we have to try our best. So in the beginning of October, I think it was 9th or 10th of October, we had our first Russian language class. How was it? Though it was the first class, and I happened to come late to the class. So like the class was supposed to start by 8, I think. Then I came around because I didn't know the location of the class. Here and there, I woke up. In fact, in short, I just came late, I think for 5-10 minutes. So what happened? I was contemplating, enter, don't enter, enter. I just entered. So when I entered, all my classmates were already seated, waiting, and the teacher was already in the class. One old lady like this, old kind of lady, Irina Borisovna, very interesting woman. So she told me to go back. So after I opened the door, she sent me back. Then here we already started learning, because I never knew what she was telling me. But later on, I realized that in Russia, or at that time, if you want to come to class, if you are late in the class, you have 3 things to do. Mostly, but in university, many teachers will tell you, hey, don't waste my time, just open and enter. You understand? But during our first year, during our learning Russian language course, what we always do is one. The first thing is you knock, kong kong kong, then you wait for the answer. Or even if no answer, you open. After you knock, you open. If you open, the next thing you do is to greet the teacher in the class or anybody that's in the class. And the third thing you do is to ask, can you enter? So you ask for permission. You have three things that you must do if you come late at that time. So anyway, the teacher let me in, and it was the first lesson, so we are already learning the Russian alphabets. But one thing I realized in the way they teach Russian language, I think maybe other languages that's how they teach, but it's different from how they taught us English in our nursery and primary schools, I can remember. Because English language, first they will teach you the alphabets, A, B, C, D, E till Z. Then they will try making words from these alphabets. I mean, gradually, or as it is alphabetical order, they will take A, B till Z, or A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, and all this stuff. But in Russian language, it's totally different, because I don't know really, but for me, I think because it will be difficult, especially for foreign students, to teach them alphabetically, because there are a lot of peculiarities with the language. Like even the alphabets, there are alphabets that are exactly the same as in English language. So you have alphabets like A, O, K, M. They are the same, they are written the same, and they are pronounced the same in Russian and in English. But there are difficult alphabets, like you see them in Russian written, you think, oh, I know this alphabet is the same in English. No, but the pronunciation is different. For example, B. The English B, in Russian that is V. So like for van or volunteer. So the V, you will see normal English B, capital B. You will think, oh, this is B, but this is V. And you will see things like C. If you see C, you'll be, oh, this is chair, this is cat, this is no. In Russian, C is S. For example, stop, you'll see they will write with C. And you will see another, for example, if you see a P in Russian, P. The English you read as P, but in Russian it's R. So it's kind of confusing if you say you will teach foreign student Russian language just, or let's say foreign student Russian alphabet straight away. So it will be difficult. And you have other alphabets that are only in Russian. So the way you write them in Russian is different, but you have their substitute in English. If you see something like P, like this, like a rectangle, but you remove the base, the last, you have 3 lines, is P in Russian. But what we have in English is the P, that is R in Russian. In fact, everything is just confusing, and there are other alphabets that are not found in Russian, that are not found in English, so they have no substitutes in English. That's the most difficult thing. That's why mostly in Russian they'll start with the alphabets that are common. So A, M, O. So they started teaching us these alphabets, and for example, in the first day they will teach you 5 alphabets. Then they will give you homework. Every day we have homework in Russian language class. But during that time we were very stressed. We're tired of it, but later on we see the result, because it's very important. Like, it helped us practice our writing and our speech and everything. So for example, they will teach you 5 letters in a day, 5 alphabets. Then they will start making words from those 5 alphabets. So the words, you will see the alphabets in those words are not different from what they taught you. For example, they taught you M, A, L, etc. So you will see words like mama, papa. Mama is mother, papa is father, on, he. So simple words. Then gradually they will, I think it took us like a month before we were able to reach or learn all the 32 alphabets. I think they have 32 or 33 letters in Russian alphabets. So that's it. It was interesting because the teacher sometimes tried to explain things in English. I think she learned English and she can speak some English, but due to lack of practice, or they teach Russian in Russian, so they don't want they don't want to give you everything in English so that you be lazy. They want you to teach. And another thing I wanted to mention is that in my class we had 8 students, so we have 7 other students, 2 Arabs from Iraq and Syria, very interesting students, funny, and 1 Turkmen from Turkmenistan, and 4 Nigerians. So like Turkmenistan, Turkmenistan used to be part of the Soviet Union, but I don't know why that guy was taking language course with us. So I later understood that in Turkmenistan you have different types of schools. You have schools that are teaching in Russian and schools that are teaching in national language like Turkmen. So the guy had to let's say furnish his Russian before he start his course of study in Tver. And after 1 or 2 months of Russian language, we started getting introduced to other subjects, because the first year is not only Russian language, it's something like introduction or translation of what you used to know in school and the basis of university studies. For example, so they teach us Russian, so we know the Russian. We started learning the Russian language, how to greet, how to say things, how to express yourselves, how to discuss issues. Then they will teach you. Even in English, you don't just learn English and start speaking in chemical terms or in scientific register. So they have to teach you the register also. So in Russian language also they have their scientific register. How they write the grammar is almost different in science. If you want to write scientific paper, is different from how you write a letter to your friend somewhere. So after the first month, they started introducing us to other subjects like mathematics. So they teach you what is plus in maths, what is addition, what is subtraction. You start solving cases, solving problems in mathematics. Then they introduce you to physics. You get to know what is acceleration due to gravity, what is velocity, what is distance, and you also learn how to solve some questions in some problems in physics. I mean, not actually learn, but to know the Russian approach of solving those issues. Then chemistry, you know what is acid, base, salt, and all these reactions. So like they are trying to translate what you used to know in secondary school or in your YEC or in your O level to the Russian language, because it's not enough to just teach you Russian and you go to school, then you start hearing things that, oh, where are they from? Because register and terms are used in different contexts. So after chemistry, they will introduce you to technical drawing, computer, Russian history. Very interesting subject. I liked the Russian history and geography because the teacher was very good and she explained, as in, it was very interesting. I never learned or studied history. In fact, even Nigerian history, unfortunately, we don't study history in our countries. So I studied till I finished my secondary school without even thoroughly studying the Nigerian history. Yeah, we had social studies in primary school and junior secondary school. Then after that, and that's not basically history. And that's why we don't know our history, we don't know what's happening. And in fact, I realize maybe that's the problem. That's why we don't have current affairs. In Nigeria, you don't have anything like current affairs, because anything current is not current. Today you are a minister, tomorrow you are no more a minister. So only the president, even the president sometimes they can impeach, I know. So like nothing is current. Everything, the cabinet is shuffling, every time is reshuffling, changing, appointing, like sacking and all that. That's why. But in Russia, they have very rich history before before Christ, let's say those days, and how they accepted Christianity and all this stuff. So they taught us a lot. She taught us the history, and I liked it. And after history, I think that's basically the subject you have to cover in the preparatory class. So the first year, the preparatory year or university prep year. So not only Russian language, they will teach you Russian alphabets, Russian language, Russian grammar. Then they will teach you what they call introduction to, let's say, scientific terms. So they will teach you this word, it meant this, but now in scientific context it means this, that. Then they will teach you mathematics in Russian, they will teach you physics. So that after this year, so that at the end of the program you will be quite ready to accept the challenge of studying in Russian language, because you don't expect to just enter the lecture hall. The lecturer will just be speaking Russian, and he will not be waiting for you to check for the translation, to check internet, what is this, what is that. Yeah, it was very interesting. So we had we finished around June, yeah, June, July. So we had like 9 months of Russian, of preparatory class, let's say. And Alhamdulillah, within this month I was able to learn a lot of things, like we even recited some poems, we learned some poems, we were able to say about ourselves, our family, our country, our town, what we like, what we don't like, our everything, like basics. And we're able to solve mathematics problems, even some complex problems. So it was very, let's say, it was very strict and very voluminous and intact. So like it was very productive at the end. At that time it was a lot of stress, because you have a lot of things to do, assignments every day, homeworks, and but we are lucky. Alhamdulillah, we graduated in June, and some of us even participated in some scientific conferences during the graduation ceremony, like to show the people that, yeah, these people are ready to get enrolled into university studies. In Russia, another thing is, one of the difference between the Russian educational system and the Nigerian educational system, or let's say African educational system, that I know is most of the times people will say, oh, in Nigeria they teach us a lot of things that are useless, like we don't need it in our profession. Yeah, but even in Russia you have a lot of things, that side things, let's say elective courses that you have to take, that you don't actually need them. But the difference is, most of them don't affect your CGPA, so they don't affect your grade. That's the difference. In Nigeria, all courses you have to write exams. In fact, in most cases you have to write CA, midterm test, then exam, and they will have credit units and they will affect your CGPA. In Russia, not all of them. So you have controlling robot, that's just like a test. You understand? So anytime teacher can give you control work to see your level. Then you have Zachot. Zachot is at the end of semesters, and it's a substitute for exam. So if you have Zachot, you don't have exam, and Zachot is just like a CA test or midterm test, or something that it's not as strong or it's not as important as exam. And when you have exam, which is obviously what is affecting your CGPA. So your main courses, you write exams in them. The electives and all this, you just write Zachot and you carry on. And Zachot, you just need to have 51 above half, so like 51%. That's all you have your Zachot. But in exam, you have grades A, B, C, and D, and all this. Yeah, basically, I don't want to take much of your time. I can see time is running. So next, before we finish the program, since we came for scholarship, we had some agreements, we have some directions from which school we are going to study in. So for me, for some of us, we had options. So they told us, oh, you came to study aeronautical engineering. Yeah, in Tver we don't have this course. So you have three options. You go to Moscow, you go to Kazan, or you go to Samara. I was like, whoa, okay, Moscow, out of it, because I don't like Moscow. Why don't you like Moscow? Because Moscow is very big for me as a village boy, Bagudiri Almajiri, village boy just coming to Russia. Tver is quite optimal, but Moscow is big, a lot of people, traffic, noise. I said, no, excuse me, I don't think this is the best option. But the university was a very good one, and they said, okay, Kazan or Samara. I started thinking. Then some of my some senior students, they said, go to Samara, we have Nigerian students there, all this. So we started processing Samara. At the end they said the university in Samara is not ready to enroll foreign students in that year. I said, okay, Alhamdulillah, as God wishes, let's go to Kazan. Then I started searching on the internet, what is Kazan, how is it, and I then realized that I have a former classmate. So like at secondary school, he was in my class, though in different branch of NTIC. I was in NTIC Kaduna, he was in NTIC Kano, so he was in Kazan already, studying the same course as I am. So okay, let's go to Kazan. And when I came, I did not. I wasn't sad. It was very interesting. Like Kazan is a very good city. So at the end, I came to Kazan. That's it, Alhamdulillah. And I'm sorry we went off. Yeah, so that's how I ended up in Kazan, and I ended up falling in love with Kazan because the city is a very nice place, and the way, the people, the food, the culture, and of course not the weather, because the weather is just different. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoy it. If you like this episode, or if you like this video, you find it useful or beneficial, please don't forget to subscribe and share with other people. And don't forget to follow us on our Facebook page, Baguddiran Almajiri. You can always send your messages, your questions, your clarifications, your recommendations, your suggestions, or you have any topic you want me to discuss, or you want to hear my opinions on. Please send your ideas or questions to Baguddir Al-Majiri on Facebook, or you can leave comment on YouTube. You can also send a direct email to ibnkhaldunforyou@gmail.com. And that's it for this episode. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.